From the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Roswell Encina, the Chief Communications Officer for the library, and welcome to the Library of Congress today. We are excited to host a wonderful conversation. His new book, Going to the Mountain, was just released yesterday, and we are honored to welcome the author, who is the grandson of global humanitarian and former President of South Africa, Nelson Mandela, Mr. Ndaba Mandela. We are eager to hear his stories growing up with his extraordinary grandfather and the work he is doing to continue his legacy. First, I want to thank members of Congress and their staff, and of course, library staff who are here this afternoon. Also, thank you to our partners with the South Africa Embassy for helping spread the word of today's discussion. Also, I want to encourage you to visit the library's display in the foyer of the Coolidge Auditorium on your way out. You saw it on your way in, and on display are amazing items from the library's Mandela collection, including some of his works, books, children's books, and a lot of other stuff. Also, today we're kicking off a lot of fun activities that will be happening here at the library this summer. Earlier this morning, we just did a media preview of our Baseball Americana. That exhibit opens this Friday. Also happening this summer, in a couple weeks, we'll be starting our summer film series, coincidentally, and not coincidentally, that is, actually. We'll be screening Field of Dreams outside. And a week after that, we'll be starting our summer concerts on the lawn. So as you can imagine, it's a very busy summer here at the library, and we hope you will come back. Now to today's event. Following the conversation, there will be a book signing in the Whitall Pavilion next door, and books will be on sale for you to purchase. At this moment, we ask you to silence your cell phones or please turn them off. Our special guest is the author of Going to the Mountain, Life Lessons from My Grandfather, Nelson Mandela. The story of Nelson Mandela is also his story, and he believes it could also be your story. He's continuing his grandfather's legacy as the founder and co-chairman of the Africa Rising Foundation, an organization dedicated to promoting a positive image of Africa around the globe and to increase its potential for growth in education, employment, and international alliances. Please welcome to the Library of Congress, Ndaba Mandela, along with the 14th Librarian of Congress, Dr. Carla Hayden.
Thank you. Oh, wow. This is such a treat. And it's even more of a treat because your book just came out yesterday.
That's right.
And I got a chance to read it last night. So we're going to do and be able to talk about the book and some of the things in there. So we just thank you for being here.
It's a pleasure. It's an absolute pleasure to be here.
Now, you've been to Washington, D.C. before?
Yes, I have. I have a few times. I've attended the Black Caucus twice.
Oh. Oh, you could clap. A little clapping. So, well, in the book, let's just get right to it. Now, having the last name Mandela and what that means to you, is there a lot of pressure or responsibility?
Of course. I think people have a lot of expectations, being a Mandela. Of course, they constantly want to put you in the footsteps of Nelson Mandela and want to know what are you doing for your community, Luckily, I am doing something for my community through my foundation, Africa Rising. We're all about youth empowerment in education, technology, and celebrating African culture and developing entrepreneurs in the villages, starting with our village in the Eastern Cape.
You mentioned technology. Now, how do you bring that in?
Yes, so basically we are currently running a 3-month computer coding program in Mthatha. We are training 60 youth, 40 are in high school, and the other 20 are unemployed youth. One of the biggest challenges that we face in South Africa is that we have 60 to 70% of our youth unemployed. And up to more than 50% of them are unemployable. They don't have the skills to actually be employed. So we are trying to do that through teaching them how to do coding. And they write an exam with Oracle after 3 months. Obviously, they then qualify with a specific qualification, and we then find them jobs.
After 3 months?
Yes.
Wow.
Very basic, but
still, that's quite something.
They have a skill, they have a certificate that guarantees them that they have been proficient in that particular model, and it's an entry level.
Now, speaking of jumping right into the book, as a young man, and I can see where technology's been a thread, you were very much into certain video games. You may say which ones.
Mobile ones.
I mean, really.
Sports, music.
And music.
Yes.
It was interesting to hear you describe hip hop and all the things like that.
I was very lucky. My older brother, he actually grew up in London. So when I met him when he was 17, he was playing Shabba Ranks. He was playing Public Enemy, the Fat Boys.
The Fat Boys?
Yes. And of course, Cool G Rap. And so, because he was an older brother and I really looked up to him, I really followed him and, the team he supported, Kaiser Chiefs, which is a local team, in terms of the music he listened to. The labels that he liked. He was a really great influence for me at those formative years, to be honest. And of course, I identified with hip hop because we come from a history of fighting the powers that be, fighting against the system, fighting against apartheid. So when you're talking about being a rebel, it's something that's in my blood that comes from generations. Madiba himself is a rebel. And his father himself was a rebel. Basically my grandfather was born in a place called Mvezo, which is a rural village. And then his father got into a dispute with his father was a chief, got into a dispute, and basically punished the gentleman and took his cattle. And so he then went to the white magistrate to report this matter. And so they basically denounced or removed the chieftaincy from our great-grandfather. And so he left and he moved to Kunu because he wouldn't give back the cattle, because he said, you have nothing to do with this. You do not know how I rule my area. You have no right to come and tell me how I should govern my area, so please get away. He told them to leave him alone, basically. And so they basically came with police, etc., and they removed them forcefully. And so he settled in Kunu. And my grandfather grew up, seeing him. But another thing that he was, I guess, privy to was that we come from the royal kingdom of the Tembus, and we come from the 4th house. So we are a polygamous nation. So the first wife is the great house. The second wife is the right-hand house. The third wife is the left-hand house. And we come from the 4th house, which is the junior house. And every wife after that comes from a junior house.
And the 4th house seemed to be the house that mediated between the other houses.
That is correct. So our job from the 4th house, too, is to be mediators amongst all the houses, especially amongst the first 2 houses, because they're always fighting over the crown, and then to be a counselor to the king. So you see, Nelson Mandela did not fall from the heavens and become this great peacemaker. It is in his blood. You understand? This is what he was essentially raised to do, to become.
That's an interesting idea of how your grandfather developed and what he brought with him. You mentioned, and the name of the book refers to something.
Yes.
Going to the mountain.
Going to the mountain refers to 2 things. Firstly, in our culture, we have a rite of passage where you move from being a boy to being a man, and that is circumcision. We are circumcised between the ages of 18 and 21 because we don't believe you can be a man at the age when you're born. You know, usually here in the world, you get circumcised when you're born.
Spoiler alert.
You know,
There's an entire chapter on your experience.
So for us, it's very important to understand, firstly, how to become a man. You have to earn the right to become a man. You don't just turn 21 and now you're regarded as an adult. No, you have to earn this right. You understand? And that is, the first thing that happens is the chop.
Let's just say that was at night you're reading that and going, okay. I couldn't stop reading.
So that's the first. So that's what it refers to. It's the circumcision process that we go through, which is really very rich because you get to understand who you are, your history, your heritage, your spiritual being in terms of how you relate to other tribes and other clans. And secondfold, it refers to the challenges, the journey that all young black people need to face in this world. People of minority, we face an enormous task. You have to go and apply to college. You have to make sure you get enough good grades to apply to college. And then when you get into college, how are you going to pay for those tuition fees? And when you finish college, how are you going to pay back those tuition fees? And now you must begin your career. So these are all little mountains that we're facing as young people in the world because our job is much harder than the average white Westerner who has grown up in this privileged world, you see. So this is what going to the mountain means. And as Nelson Mandela said, after climbing a great hill, and you reach the top of that hill, you realize there are so many more mountains to climb.
And you, to have the person that we all revere and we know his public persona, when you were 11, you went to live with him.
Yes.
And just tell us about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, I was living in Soweto, which is a ghetto in Johannesburg. And so one day, this gentleman came, my grandfather's driver, and he said, I've been sent by grandfather to come and fetch you. Come, let's go. And I mean, I had only met my grandfather once before in 1990. This is 3 years later.
Was he in prison then, right?
Yeah, so we met him just before he came out of prison. And then, this is 3 years later, I never saw him, never heard from him. And then all of a sudden, there's a driver to come and fetch me who has been sent by him. And I'm at home alone because I'm at home at about 3 p.m. Parents only get home at about 6, 7 p.m. from work. So I was not gonna go with him, obviously, without the approval of my parents. There was no cell phones in those days. And so, you know, do you know who your grandfather is? Are you crazy? Do you want me to lose my job? Please, let's go. And I said, no, sir, I cannot. And eventually he gave up. My parents came home later that evening, and I told my father what had transpired. And he said, you know what? If that man comes again, you should go with him. Lo and behold, that man came back that very same week. And I went with him, and he took me to my grandfather's house, which was this big house and a mansion in the leafy white suburb in, you know, northern suburbs of Johannesburg. And, you know, basically my grandfather told me that he would be sending my parents to college. And while they're at college, they need to focus on school, and he's gonna look after me during that time. And I slept over that day. My father came the next day, and he said, yeah, well, this is what my father has decided, your grandfather, and this is what's gonna happen. As a young person in any African family, you don't really have much choice, you know? You just have to do as you're told. And so that's what happened. And now, from a ghetto, from sleeping, eating rice and tomato sauce, that was my staple diet, because we grew up in a poor home, to moving into this mansion where there's chefs, drivers, security, gardeners,
You mentioned that you felt like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
I mean, it kind of like was that.
Yeah.
Kind of like was that, to be honest, you know?
You just went, and there you were.
Yeah, yeah.
And there he was, though, the private person that most of us could never imagine being with. What was that like?
You know, he was actually, the first couple of years, there wasn't much conversation happening. He was really just a disciplinarian, scolding me every time my room was in a mess. And our conversation really revolved around school. What I needed for school, books, uniform, sports stuff. It was all about how's the report card looking. There was not much conversation outside of school stuff, basically. And I remember once, I lost my jersey, my school jersey, for the second time. And of course, I had to tell him because I needed a new one. And I went and I told him, and I was very nervous. And he said, he changed his face all of a sudden. He said, okay, tonight you're gonna sleep outside. I was like, oh, okay. So off I went outside, and I was playing soccer in the grass, and first hour was kind of okay, and then started getting cold, started getting dark, and then I saw Mama Oli, who was the lady who cooked for us, bringing the blanket. And she came and gave me the blanket. I said, oh my God, I'm really gonna sleep outside. And maybe 20 minutes, I was starting to make up my little bed, on the grass. And 20 minutes later, he came outside and he called me. And he said, if you ever lose another jersey, you will definitely sleep outside. Now go inside, have your dinner, and go straight to bed. And, it was kind of harsh, but it worked. I never lost another jersey.
And you had that relationship where you mentioned he was the disciplinarian.
Yeah.
In hindsight, do you think that you needed it?
Of course. I was a little knucklehead back then. I just wanted to have fun and more fun. Whether it was, it wasn't PlayStation back then, it was Sega Saturn, or soccer, or watching a movie, I'd go to him and on a Friday, Saturday, hey granddad, can I please have 50 Rand to go watch a movie with my friends, and he'd always give me. There's not one time where he said no.
So there was that softness under there.
Yeah.
Now, I wrote this one down because he said, to be the father of a nation is a great honor, but to be a father of a family is a greater joy. It was a joy I had far too little of. And with the years of imprisonment, he missed that. And so with you, he had an opportunity to do it.
I guess so. I mean, that must have formed his decision. Because, I also stayed with my grandmother for a little bit, Grandma Winnie. He could have sent me to go stay with her, or my real grandmother from the first marriage, his first wife, was still alive. My aunt was also still around, but he decided to take me in and to stay with him. He had options, but he decided, I'm gonna discipline this young man. I'm gonna show him the way of life, So perhaps that was his way of making some sort of, compensation or retribution, or, with the father figure, that he never had the opportunity to do that because he had to make an ultimate sacrifice, unfortunately. Instead of taking his kid to go ride bikes, he had to go and organize the peaceful protests and the marches and strategize on how they want to keep the ANC alive while it was banned. He had so many things to do that focus on the country. So he had to make a very hard decision, sacrifice his family, 4 or 5 people, for the greater good of 4 or 5 million.
And you mentioned that in private he was some of the things that we could see, humble and forgiving.
Yes.
And he had a sense of humor, though.
Great sense of humor, actually. He was actually quite a little mischievous with his humor, to be honest with you. I remember one time I actually had asked a female friend to come over for lunch. And so he says, "Oh, nice to meet you. So did you propose to my grandson?"
Okay.
And you can imagine the young lady was blushing from
And
ear
she
to
didn't
ear.
know what. She didn't know.
And he was always just trying to throw me, like, "Hey, have you seen my grandson?" And I'm like, "Yes," but I was always a bit too young, because you used to have, like, the Miss South Africa would come over, Miss Universe would come over, Miss World would come over. And I was just obviously in awe, but I was way too young. I mean, I couldn't really hang. But he wouldn't care. He would just like, "Hey, did you see my grandson?"
That was pretty nice. That was pretty nice. So during this time, though, he became president of the nation. So were you aware of those? I mean, he was working with you and being part of your life, but he was helping to build the nation again.
Yes, I mean, he was very busy. He traveled a lot, of course. There were many weeks where I didn't see him, which were kind of fun, because I could get away with murder. I could play games until 2 in the morning and no one could really say anything. But when he's home, it's like, "Hey, the chief is home." So you had to, keep everything in line. But the one thing that I realized about him is that, that's a man with so much compassion for people, for ordinary people. You can imagine Michael Jackson visited our home twice. Even former President Bush, Evander Holyfield, Mike Tyson, you name it. And all these people that visited us, he treated them the same way as he treated Mama Oli, who cooked for us, as Albert, who cleaned the garden, as Bramaik, who was the driver. Because I think the one thing that Nelson Mandela understood, similar to Martin Luther King, was that you do not judge people by their skin color, by their age, by their race, by their sexuality. You understand that each person has the potential to achieve greatness, and we should allow that person to have the opportunity to achieve that greatness that they want to achieve for themselves.
You mentioned that he treated everyone the same. I was really taken with his phone call with Queen Elizabeth. But we think of her.
I laugh because it's something that he was also being very mischievous with Graça Machel. I remember one afternoon. I'm not sure I should be telling the story, but it's a bit late now. It's a little late. Granddad, please forgive me for this one. So we are having lunch. It's me, my grandfather, and Auntie Graça. I call Auntie Graça. And a phone call comes in, and Mama Oli comes. Tata, I used to call him Tata, which means father in Xhosa. Tata, it's Queen Elizabeth on the line. Put her through. And then obviously the phone comes, he picks it up. "Hello, Elizabeth, how are you?" And they have a conversation, they talk, eventually, bye. And Graça is like, "Oh my God, Madiba, how can you call the queen by her name? You have to say Your Majesty, Madiba." And he turns to her and says, "But why? She calls me Nelson."
Wow.
He says, "We always call each other by our first name. Do you forget that I'm a prince?" And he's like, "Do you forget that I'm a prince, darling? You've married a royalty here, huh?"
Wow. So you had the private side, and you know about his legacy, and that's why so many people are here and want to hear from you about how some of the lessons that you think can be applied today. There was a lot about reconciliation and being able to let go of, never to forget the hate, but to let things go, to reconcile.
Yes, I think, Nelson Mandela, obviously, he tried the peaceful way, right, of peaceful marching. But he says in an interview that all the peaceful marches and protests that they did, they were only met with violence and brutality and savage attacks from the government. And so they decided to now take up military action against the government. And so he became the first commander-in-chief of the military arm of the ANC. And he trained in Algeria for 6 months, and 6 months in Ethiopia with Emperor Haile Selassie. And he came back and started obviously hitting back at the enemy. But they didn't obviously attack people, they attacked the infrastructure of the apartheid government. So they attacked the power lines, the power stations, they attacked the telephone infrastructure, basically. But of course, there were casualties, as is in any war. And so obviously he was captured and he was sent to life in prison. And I think during that time in prison, he got to reflect a lot, obviously, and he got to see the independence that was happening across Africa, from 1950 Ghana to 1980 in Zimbabwe, and most of these countries that were gaining their independence in Africa were going through civil war. And I think he really wanted to stop the cycle of violence that was really eating away at our country, at our society. And so when he came out, he decided to then obviously, forgive, his captors, forgive those people that trespassed against him, and the one thing I have to ask myself is, first of all, that is one super unnatural thing to do, because if I was jailed for 5 years even, not alone 27 years, 5 years, I would come out with the vengeance and the anger of a gorilla, right? And I'd want to blast all my enemies. But he didn't, which is something very unnatural. Secondly, a lot of comrades, from Steve Biko to Solomon Mahlangu, who were caught by the apartheid government, were killed in incarceration. They didn't last long. So how come Nelson Mandela was not killed? Why was Nelson Mandela spared? And the only answer that I can come to is that God spared him. That God was the one who was on our side and kept him alive for a specific purpose that he had to play after he came out of prison. And so he understood that they needed to kill this vicious cycle of violence that was taking our country. And him and Bishop Tutu then came up with the Truth and Reconciliation talks that took place in the early 90s. And that was really to give the opportunity for the victims of apartheid, those who had lost loved ones, who had been tortured, who had been wrongfully incarcerated for many years, to sit with their victims and to have some sort of restorative justice, and for the perpetrators to be able to divulge every single bit of information in return for amnesty. A lot of people feel that it wasn't really successful, but I think it really laid the foundations to try and get the ball rolling for a new dispensation, for a new country, called the Rainbow Nation. That would be, and make people understood the value of peace and harmony over the continued violence that we had been experiencing for so many decades. And I think it was just his way of trying to amend and to eliminate his enemies. Because one of the things he said is that in order to defeat your enemy, you must work with your enemy, because then he becomes your partner.
And he had you learn Afrikaans.
I did not learn Afrikaans, but I understand a little bit. I don't know if there's any Afrikaans-speaking people here. No. I used to sometimes wake up in the morning and he would be in the lounge. He used to read all the newspapers back to back. He was actually very fluent in Afrikaans, reading and writing. So much so that even in jail, the warden that was looking after the Madiba cell had to be changed every 3 months. Because what they found is that Nelson Mandela would be able to really connect with any human being, including the guard, right? Including the guard. So how he did it is that the guards would receive letters from their loved ones, but they were not as educated as Madiba was in their own language. So Madiba would translate the letters for the warden that was looking after him. And of course, now the man is very happy that he understands the letter, and now Madiba would convince him to smuggle in an extra few slices of bread, an extra couple of oranges and fruits, an extra blankets, some extra jackets, you understand? And once the authorities found this out, obviously they were completely, angry. And so they changed the guard. And even when they changed the guard, the same thing happened again. So even in prison, there was no one guard that could look after Nelson Mandela without him ending up becoming a friend of Nelson Mandela. That is the spirit and the power of Madiba, because I believe he just had this gift from God that he could connect with his compassion to anybody. Whether that person spoke English or not, Madiba would be able to connect with you.
Do you think he realized, he knew that he had this gift or that he had this responsibility?
I think he knew that he had this responsibility. I don't know about the gift, but I think he definitely knew that he had this responsibility. And I can say that because he taught me. He told me, Ndaba, you're a Mandela, therefore people will look at you as a leader. And as a leader, you must get the best marks in class. And I was like, whoa. I just wanted to be a normal kid and play and have fun and just do what normal kids. I don't have the pressure of having to study all day, every day so that I can have the best marks in class so I can be seen as a leader. For me, I didn't really understand it at the time. Only much later did I come to grips with it. And
so you've been able to, with your foundation, and to really see how you can keep it.
Yes. No, obviously inspired me indirectly to start this foundation, but one of the main reasons we started the foundation was I was very lucky to be able to travel, with my grandfather and without him. And I remember my very first trip here in America. We went to Disney World, of course. I was 18 years old with my younger and older brothers and cousins. And we were trying to get onto a roller coaster, and eventually, you get into the line, you get in front of the queue eventually, and the gentleman's like, hi, how are you? So where are you from? Oh, no, I'm from South Africa. And he says to me, so how big do the lions get? I looked at my cousin, I said, sorry, sir, I don't work at the zoo. I have no idea. I have no idea how big lions get. And then we traveled to London, and somebody says, hey, well, oh, hi, how are you? South Africa. I heard it's dangerous there. I need security to come to South Africa. I say, sir, South Africa is quite safe. My grandfather's a president. I don't even have a security. I think you'll be just fine. I think you'll be just fine. And then we traveled to New York. And another question came, in the same fashion. And then I realized that, no, man, there's something wrong here. People outside of our continent have a very skewed perception of what is happening on our continent. And this is mainly perpetuated by mainstream media. That Africa is a place of war, poverty, disease, and dictators. Now, we're not here to deny that these things exist. However, there's a lot more positive things that exist in Africa than what you see on your TV. And so we decided to start something. We didn't know what it was. We decided to start something. So when I got back home, me and my cousin called our colleagues, right? And we said, guys, there's something wrong with the image of Africa. We need to change it. And what I realized that day is that I was not special because most of the people that I called to that meeting felt the very same way. So it is in the eyes and in the hearts of African youth in general. They feel the same way I do because they've seen it, they've experienced it. And so that day we decided to be a foundation, a non-profit organization that focuses on youth empowerment because we understand that the task at hand is not going to be achieved overnight. It's going to take 2 or 3 generations for us to be able to achieve the breaking down of the misconception in Africa so that they can see it as a place where they can go on holiday, they can see it as a place where they can do business. This is a place, when you look at the top 10 growing economies on the world right now, 7 of those are coming from the continent of Africa, right? Many people don't know that. You want real growth and investment and return on your capital, come to Africa. You want to have fun and experience the most tropical, amazing islands, come to Africa. You want to have the freshest, cleanest garment draping down your body, come to Africa. Huh? I mean, when you look at all the fashion houses, whether it be Louis Vuitton, whether it be Hugo Boss, whether it's high, low end, they are all taking inspiration from Africa. I'm not going to talk about the music and dancing because we're already
I was going to ask. But so much, and art.
Yeah. So we basically focus on young people in high school level. We focus on education, entrepreneurship development, and technology. So we are currently running a 3-month coding program for 40 kids in high school and 20 unemployed youth. In South Africa, one of our challenges is that we have 60 to 70% of our youth who are unemployed. And over 50% of them are unemployable because they do not have skills to actually get a job.
What about the school systems? I know with the divisions and things, so now how are your education systems?
Well,
or is it spotty?
You know, it's the story of South Africa is that we have both the private and the public. The private schools in South Africa are some of the best in the world, have the best facilities in the world, and are really can compare to any in the world. But the public are not as good. We have a few good public schools, but majority of them are lacking in many ways, you know, whether it's the attitude of the teachers, you know, whether it's the facilities, but sheer down mismanagement of resources and lack of resources when it comes to the public sector. I mean, I know a school which is not too far from our village. They are studying in the shipment containers. That is a school. The shipment container, it's a whole school, you know, looking after about 200 children. And it's in raggedy, terrible shape. To the point where I had a meeting recently before I came here with the teacher who told me that it has holes on the floor and there have been incidences where snakes creep up through. I mean, can you imagine a 5-year-old, 6-year-old? That is the most traumatic thing. That is the most traumatic thing. So how can, you know, these kids are not looking forward to going to school. You know what I mean? They're not looking forward to going to school, let alone the fact that they are poor, they can't even afford food. How can you learn on an empty stomach? So the weird thing is that South Africa, our country in particular, has both, you know, aspects of a developing and a developed country. We have the best and the worst in our country. Literally the best and the worst. There are parts where you'll say, oh my God, I am back in the Stone Ages. It looks like hell. And then there are parts where you'll say, oh my God, look at this, I must be in Monaco. You know, this is amazing. That is South Africa today. So it's a question of how do we close the gap, you know? That is our biggest challenge right now.
This July, your grandfather would have turned 100 years old. And are there plans for a Centennial? Because I really wanted, before we open it up for questions, I really wanted to ask about
there are some plans. Well, the Nelson Mandela Foundation, they're having the Nelson Mandela Annual Lecture, which has been given by Barack Obama, President Obama this year. That will be on the 17th of July. Unfortunately, we were having a gala dinner, but it had to be postponed, so we have postponed it to the 1st of December, which is World AIDS Day. And of course, HIV/AIDS is something that has played a significant role in my life. I lost both my parents to HIV/AIDS. And since then, I've become one of the longest serving ambassadors of UNAIDS, having traveled to Brazil, Geneva, Switzerland, talking about this epidemic. Recently, I was in Russia speaking at the East European AIDS Conference. We are by many, ways the average South African family. We've been affected by the very same thing that has affected all South Africans. So as much as we are Mandelas and we have this great icon who's our patriarchy and who's our leader, we are very much no different from the rest of you sitting here today.
Now, your grandfather left that legacy that's being felt globally. And I know you have carried on. And what are some of the life lessons you think that he taught you and that we can all look forward to?
Well, the one lesson he taught me was, Ndaba, you must always be humble. Humility is very important, especially for a leader. You have to be accessible, and you have to understand the people that you're serving, because as a leader, you are a servant. You're not there to boast, to show what a great car you have or how many A's you got. That is not a leader. A leader is not there to show, I'm number one, look at me. No, I'm there to make sure that the people that don't have a voice, who can't stand up for themselves, that is the people that I'm there to serve. So you have to understand who your constituency is. You need to have a constituency. He said, you must be humble. And he said to me, Ndaba, you must never drive a Jaguar, because then people will know how much money you have. And then I thought to myself, but Granddad used to drive a Mercedes-Benz. Okay, but I'll take it on the chin. But of course, I think he was very serious at the same time. Discipline is very important. And he was one of the most disciplined person I've ever met. Obviously, as he was getting older, he would get sick from time to time. And the doctor would say, okay, you must eat more tomatoes. And he would tell Mama Oli, every morning, I want you to slice up 2 tomatoes. And then, a couple of months later, they would say, no, you must eat less tomatoes. And he would tell Mama Ola, make sure that there are no more tomatoes. Now I want apples. And he would do it religiously every day, Just discipline, integrity, very important. If you tell your friend, hey, let's meet at the library at 2 o'clock, be there at 2 o'clock, If you say, listen, I'm going to send you that email, later tonight, send that email later tonight. That's integrity on a very basic level, And it's very important. It goes a long way. Madiba, what can I say about Madiba? Yeah, he taught me that love is stronger than hate, because love comes much more natural to the human condition than hate. If a person can be taught to hate, they can be taught to love. And that is our theme for celebrating Nelson Mandela in the 100 years, is love and unity. Because through love and unity, there is nothing that we cannot achieve.
We know you got a chance to make him proud, and I think he continues to be proud.
Thank you very much.
So we have time for a few questions, I understand, and there is a microphone, I hope, and here are some people, and if you'd like to, and of course the book is available on your way out. And there's a young man right here, right in front. Looks like he was about the age when you were trying to sneak out of the house. Sure, introduce yourself. Oh, that's cool.
My name is Joshua Burrell. I'm a rising sophomore at Morehouse College. I'm a cinema. I'm a cinema, television, and emerging media studies major and a journalism minor. I'm from Columbia, Maryland, so I guess I'm commuting. Currently, I'm a junior fellow at the Library of Congress. I work in the photos and prints collection. Yeah, I'm an intern here, sorry.
Okay.
My question for you is, you say that you see the best in the worst socioeconomically and on the educational level of the public sphere in Africa. How could that translate to helping the Black community in America?
Well, you know, what that says is that, like I said now, through love and unity, you know, Madiba said, you can judge a society, or there is no keener revelation to a society's soul than in the way they treat their children, right? So, we have a responsibility to do as much as we can to make sure young people have mentorship, good mentors. They may not have the best schools, but we can each, one of us sitting in this room, mentor a young child for 1 hour or 2 hours a week. That will go a long way. If you can sit with him for 1 hour a week on a Saturday, right, and go through his homework and answer his questions about what he experienced during that week and what his challenges are. Think about the impact that it will have if you do that for 5 years, right? We cannot continue. I mean, these days, the most influential people are no longer your lawyers or your policemen, right? The most influential people today are pop stars, right? Your musicians, your actors, who are not necessarily cognizant of the effects they have on young kids' minds, right? Because they engage from time to time in negative behavior. And some of them will say, well, I didn't want to be a mentor. I didn't choose to be a mentor. It doesn't matter whether you chose it or not. You are a person in an influential position, so acknowledge and embrace that position that you're in, right? So if we can take time to spend time with a young person and take some of the lessons of Nelson Mandela, don't you think this world will be a better place 5 to 10 years from now?
Hello, I'm also an intern at the National Center for Higher Education. My name is Emily Mee. I'm curious if the history that you have lived through and that your grandfather has lived through has offered you any perspective onto the way that our nation is headed, and do you have any advice for folks who are concerned for the future of humanity based on some of the politics that we are living through right now and the direction that we're heading in as a nation?
Yes, you know, when you talk about this immigration issue, which I see is very big right now, and it's very similar to our country. We went through a similar thing, but in our country, we actually had xenophobic attacks. Xenophobia is the fear of people from outside of your country, foreigners, fear of foreigners, pretty much. And it was so bad that our South Africans were physically attacking Ethiopians, Zimbabweans, Nigerians, etc., saying that they're stealing our jobs, they're messing up our economy, etc., which is a damn shame. It's a damn shame because these are the very same people that assisted you in liberating your country. These are the same people who built the fundamentals and the building blocks of American society, right? So how now do we turn our back now that we're experiencing prosperity and we're experiencing, you know, new opportunities and the technology boom and all these amazing new things, say, hey, you've built our country, now it's time for you to leave because we want to enjoy it by ourselves. You understand? I mean, we need to remind each other where we come from. How was this freedom won? How was this great country built? It was not built by Americans, it was built by people from around the world. So why are we chastising our brothers and sisters who helped us get here today?
And And also, I just want to say you should know that we're taping this because a lot of staff members from the library here, and they're going back to their posts. So when you see people, that's what's happening.
Okay.
Madiba,
Clickers.
Sopicho, Yem, Molomsila, Velabambenzele. Didi Zweliaji.
Clickers.
That's how in Unu, where I come from, we greet the royal blood. Mlomo, I don't have to introduce myself to you, but for the benefit of the audience, I too, my name is Siabulela, and my surname is Mandela. I'm from the house of Mandela in Unu. I just wanted to affirm and confirm that indeed what you've written in your book is true. And I want to thank you, Mlomo, for the grand articulation of our culture and how we have explained to the world how the Tembu Kingdom is being configured, the configuration of the Tembu Kingdom. So therefore, I want to thank you, Mlomo, and say, as your younger brother, I've always looked up to you. Unfortunately, didn't tell me that he's coming to America. I heard it from a journalist here. And I said to myself, I'm going to surprise him. So as your younger brother, I'm inspired by the work that you're doing in carrying it on with the legacy of our grandfather. And I'm learning to you. Therefore, you must not make a single mistake because I'm stepping at your foot, just like as you're stepping in my grandfather's foot. Thank you.
Family is everything.
That's right. I wouldn't be here without it.
Awesome. Thank you for coming. Thank you for doing the book. My name is Masipula Sutole Jr. My question relates to Zimbabwe. And comparatively speaking, Nelson Mandela was one of the founding fathers, liberators, that was able to eventually help with the democratization efforts. As we are approaching elections in Zimbabwe, they announced for July 30th to be doing elections. My question is regarding the 25% of Zimbabweans who currently dwell in the diaspora and are being told you're going to be excluded from the elections unless you come back home to vote. So my question is can you share some suggestions or some support? And if you can also touch on Pan-Africanism on this one. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I can't really judge on that issue because it also depends on the resources of the country. If the country is poor and they don't have resources to allow their citizens to vote by remote control, how can I judge? We are lucky South Africa has those resources for people to vote at their embassies around the world. But, just because South Africa can do it doesn't mean that every nation should do it or every nation can do it. So it's very difficult for me to judge in that situation. Yes, obviously it's unfortunate. You want as much citizens to obviously be included in the voting, but it's difficult. It's very difficult. If they don't have the resources to carry the embassies and get those votes back to their countries, we can't judge them for that. We really can't. So if the only way is to tell people to come home and vote, how can we can't judge them for that. There's nothing we can do. But as far as Pan-Africanism is concerned, I believe the liberation of South Africa could not have been achieved without the support of our brothers and sisters across the continent, as you know. A lot of people helped us in Zimbabwe, in Botswana, in Swaziland, in Lesotho, all the way up to Nigeria including Algeria as well, Ethiopia, you name it, Mali, etc. So for me, we need somehow, some way, through the independence journey and in this post-colonial area, we lost that Pan-Africanism that we once had. We lost that unity and solidarity that we once had. And it needs to be reignited. And I can see now, even in our continent, we are trading more with the West and the East than we are trading with each other, which has never happened before. We need to reignite that, because if we do not unite and reignite that spirit of solidarity amongst Africans on the continent first and foremost, we shall never realize our road to independence. We shall never realize our dream to create a prosperous and independent continent of Africa. That is really the key to us achieving our goals and making sure that our dreams come to fruition. So in the spirit of Julius Nyerere and Kwame Nkrumah, those men were true visionaries. And in the words of Kwame Nkrumah, he says, we as Africans do not look west, nor do we look east. We look forward. Huh? Thank you, brother.
I've been told that we have time for one more question, so we have a person here.
Good afternoon. My name is Wayne Connor. I'm an employee here at the Library of Congress. I work in the Office of General Counsel. My question is for someone who has obviously been inspired by a great leader and who is currently a great advocate for many causes. Do you have any advice for young people like myself or others who might be in the room on how we can better become a voice and become an influencer of change within our own communities? And what are some of the tools that we could seek out in order to be able to be better at that?
Yeah. You have to choose a cause that you care about, that you're passionate about. It's like business. When you become an entrepreneur, you cannot be a successful entrepreneur if you're not passionate about that business. Because along the way, you will come across speed humps and hurdles, people that don't believe you, people that think you can't do it, right? So you need to have a cause that you're very passionate about. That will make sure you don't give up, because people give up sometimes too quickly, for various amounts of reasons. Now, you need to make sure that you surround yourself by people that care for you and believe in you. You need to have a mentor. Everybody needs a mentor. No matter how old you are, no matter how successful you are, everybody needs a mentor. And you need to then understand the people or the cause that you're championing, what their challenges are. You cannot champion a cause if you have not talked to the people that it affects the most. Otherwise, you are just shooting in the air, right? You need to understand that constituency that you're serving. And make sure you surround yourself with the right people. And often, that support starts at home. That support starts within your own immediate network. Now, if you can't get support from your family members and your friends and your own immediate network, then my friend, I think you need to change your course. Because clearly they don't believe you. And if they don't believe you, then I don't know where you're gonna get your support. So the first thing is, do I really care about this thing that I'm trying to push? Am I in touch with the people that I'm trying to help, trying to give a voice, trying to get a law passed or an action done or whatever the case may be? You need to be in touch with those people and have a mentor and a support base, basically. And that is really the first steps of making sure that you will be able to serve the objectives that you have set out for yourself. Don't do it because the girl that you like said you should do it, or you do it because your parent forced you to do it. Do it because you yourself care and are passionate about that cause.
We all thank you for sharing the life lessons that you learned from your grandfather and sharing them with all of us. And I am never recommend books because of what I do. But if you happen to have a chance to read what you have learned and read this book, I think you would be in touch not only with your grandfather, but with you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
So thank you.
So much. Thank you so much.
This has been a presentation of the Library of Congress. Visit us at loc.gov.